Marvel, Hela's husband breaks the universe. Please like, share, and subscribe. Episode 21, The Intruder, Bruce Banner. While Pierce was anxious, there was a group of people who were even more anxious. That was the Xavier School for the Gifted Youngsters, headed by the X-Men, that were mutants. Laser I was originally planning to kneel down for Yi Bai and pray for Professor. He hoped that Yi Bai would forgive the Professor. Laser I had even made plans to sacrifice his own life instead of the Professor's life. But the crux of the problem was, he couldn't find where Yi Bai was now. They went to Yi Bai's manor, but they didn't find Yi Bai, only an empty manor. Even if he wanted to kneel, he didn't have this opportunity. This ending made Laser I almost desperate. If Yi Bai was not found soon, Professor X would not last a few more days. Maybe when Yi Bai returned, Professor X's funeral would be over. And at this time, the Storm Girl, who had more ideas than the X-Men, proposed a method to extend the life of Professor X. This method was to use Rogue's mutation ability to transfer the vitality of Wolverine into Professor X's body. The most terrifying thing about Wolverine was his self-healing ability. It was due to this ability that he could be called an immortal beast. This plan was indeed feasible. After gaining the vitality of Wolverine, Professor X's situation was much better. Although he was still in a coma, at least his physical condition had not deteriorated anymore. The only one that suffered was Wolverine. The original Wolverine was a fierce man. His sturdy muscles exuded a sturdy aura, which made him very difficult to provoke. But now Wolverine was sluggish. His face was pale, and his body was hollowed out. When he looked at the harmless little mischief of humans and animals, his eyes were full of fear and rejection. And thinking that such days might continue for a while, Wolverine had the thought of jumping off the building. Never before had Wolverine been so eager for Laser Eye to succeed at that moment. Wolverine even wanted to find Yi Bai as soon as possible and then knelt down with a plop and begged Yi Bai to quickly recall his magical powers. Otherwise, if this continued, Professor X may not die, but he would be killed by some naughty man first. Yi Bai naturally didn't know about the situation at Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Even in Professor X's current situation, Yi Bai didn't pay him much attention. After punishing the old gangster with black magic, Yi Bai didn't care. If he died, Yi Bai wouldn't feel distressed at all. It didn't matter if someone was not dead, as long as you didn't come to him and cause trouble. At this time, Yi Bai and Hela were lying on the deck, looking forward to seeing the land quickly. This was already the third day of their yacht trip. In one sentence, it was boring. Looking at the endless sea around him, Yi Bai deeply felt that it was a foolish thing to go out on a yacht. One day was fine, but the next day he got a little tired. In fact, the yacht itself was not used for traveling, the yacht was actually a party tool. This was also the fundamental reason why the richest people in the United States rarely bought yachts. The price-performance ratio of yachts was too low, and the travel experience was extremely poor. They were generally used to hold various parties or go fishing. If you really wanted to travel, you still had to rely on airplanes. This was also the reason why there were so many private jets in United States. Yi Bai had planned to buy a private jet, anyway. After all, he was not short of money now. Finally, after the third day of boring sailing, Yi Bai and Hela finally arrived at the private port in the City of Angels. At the port at this time, there were already a dozen people waiting. These people were the butler team hired by Yi Bai to take care of Yi Bai's daily life. This was to enjoy life, otherwise you had to do everything yourself, and Yi Bai, a billionaire, would be too uncomfortable. "Sir, the car is ready. Do you want to return to the villa?" As soon as Yi Bai and Hela got into the car, an old man with a very gentleman came forward and bowed to Yi Bai and asked, "Let's go home first, and then see the situation." Yi Bai was also used to it, and replied faintly. Then he took Hela's hand and walked into an extended Rolls-Royce. Although Yi Bai received a socialist education before crossing the front, he had to admit that capitalism did have its merits. For the rich, for example, capitalism was much more convenient and more enjoyable. There were many things that you didn't need to worry about. Naturally, there would be a team to arrange everything for you. All you had to do was to calm down and enjoy. After 3 consecutive days of sailing, Hela was also a little tired. At this time, she was leaning on Yi Bai's shoulder and closing her eyes to rest. "What? You said Hela was a goddess of death. How could she be exhausted from traveling?" Then you had to see who Hela was traveling with. On the yacht, when bored, Yi Bai must have some fun. And Hela was unfortunate. She couldn't even run. 3 days. How could Hela not get tired? Without a word, the extended Rolls-Royce quickly stopped in front of a luxurious villa in Beverly Hills. Yibai did not let his butler team continue to follow up, but dismissed them. Then he helped Hela, who was a little soft when she walked, slowly walked into this luxurious villa. Before entering the villa, Yibai frowned slightly. He heard the sound of human breathing in his villa. Someone came in? Yibai thought in his heart and then became a little angry. This was his house, his private property. He wanted to see who dared to break in. Don't forget, the United States had the castle law. Treating those guys who broke into the villa privately, Yibai would be innocent even if he shot them to death. While in the villa, Bruce Banner was asleep. Since coming to this luxurious villa, Bruce Banner had lived a very good life. He didn't worry about someone chasing himself, because no one would break into such a mansion at will. The only thing to note was when would the owner of this villa come back. It would be better if he never came back, Bruce Banner thought. Suddenly, the sleeping Bruce Banner's eyelids twitched slightly, and he woke up from his deep sleep. Thanks to these days of experience, his vigilance was many times stronger than before, allowing him to stay vigilant even during sleep. When he heard movement on the first floor of the villa, Bruce Banner's first reaction was that there was a thief. But after another thought, wasn't he the thief? So this guess was quickly rejected, and there was only one answer left, and the owner of this mansion returned. Realizing this, Bruce Banner woke up immediately and began to think about the route to escape. In the United States, if he ran slowly, he could not rule out the possibility of being shot directly by the house owner. And if he was shot to death in this house, he would have died in vain. Episode 22, The Arrival of General Ross. Yibai put Hela on the sofa on the first floor to let Hela have a good rest. And Yibai himself stepped up the stairs and walked towards the second floor. Yibai clearly perceived that an unexpected guest had arrived on the second floor of his villa. Yibai was going to find out, to see who was so bold that he dared to break into his private villa. Listening to Yibai's unhurried footsteps, Bruce Banner completely panicked. He started looking around for an escape route, but he couldn't find it in a short time. He could only run around in the same place, and then face Yibai, who had come to the second floor. The air was quiet at this moment. Bruce Banner and Yibai looked at each other. Both of them were a little dazed. Oh my god, it's you, Yi. Great. I finally don't have to worry about being shot. Bruce Banner was the first to react, with a surprised look on his face, and he opened his arms to hug Yibai. Yibai also rolled his eyes. Unexpectedly, it was this guy who broke into his house. And wasn't this guy supposed to be in Manhattan now? How did he come to the City of Angels? Looking at Bruce Banner, who was about to come and hug him, Yibai stopped his movements. Banner. Why are you here? How did you become the way you are now? Yibai asked, pretending to be puzzled. Yes, Yibai and Bruce Banner knew each other, and they had a good relationship. Bruce Banner was an out-and-out genius, with 7 doctorate degrees at a young age, which was unique in the entire United States. He was more talented than Tony Stark. One could imagine how talented Bruce Banner was. Of course, it was not like Tony Stark couldn't do it. He did not do it, not because he was incapable, but because he was lazy. As for Yibai, he was also a genius in literature. 2 geniuses like this, who also graduated from the same university, their relation could be regarded as the relationship of brothers. Naturally, Bruce Banner and Yibai had a friendship. After all, at their level, the circle was only so big. It wouldn't work if they didn't know each other. Yibai naturally knew that Bruce Banner was the Hulk, and it was because of this that he first met Bruce Banner. At that time, Yibai's sign-in system hadn't awakened yet, so naturally, he wanted to hug a thick thigh. After, Yibai met Hela, and then he had the current story. And Bruce Banner, because he was busy with scientific research, the two had never seen each other again. They didn't expect to meet one another in this way today. Banner, how are you doing recently? Why did you suddenly come to my villa? In the living room on the first floor, Yibai simply entertained Banner. He casually opened a bottle of beer worth thousands of dollars, made from glacier water in the past. Banner took the beer, took a sip, and then replied, "It's a long story. It's all because of a damn experiment." Bruce Banner did not intend to conceal anything from Yibai. He told everything that had happened to him recently. From the very beginning when the experiment started, he was penetrated by gamma rays, and then a demon was born in his body, and then they were hunted by the whole world. Banner said very miserably. And he couldn't help but choke a bit. He was not the future superhero Hulk now, he was just an ordinary doctor who had never seen many storms. An ordinary person who encountered such a big mess and had no mental breakdown was already tough. Yibai also expressed his sympathy in a timely manner and said that Banner was unlucky. However, Yibai didn't plan to intervene in this matter either. Anyway, Banner would handle it sooner or later. Then what do you plan to do in the future? Keep hiding? Yi-Bai asked Banner, a little curious about what Banner planned to do later. As for helping Banner, forget it. Yi-Bai didn't want to cause trouble. Besides, Yi-Bai had no intentions for Banner, and he didn't plan to accept the Hulk as a younger brother, so naturally, he wouldn't care too much about Banner. I don't know. Let's take one step at a time. If it doesn't work, I'll go to Africa, where the federal government doesn't have much authority, and if it's a big deal, I'll live the rest of my life as an African native. Banner shook his head and replied, somewhat bitterly. He naturally hoped that Yi-Bai could help him, but he also knew that this was unrealistic. To be honest, Yi-Bai didn't directly drive him out after learning about his situation. It was enough. Banner was also really embarrassed to trouble Yi-Bai again. And Banner also knew that Yi-Bai couldn't help at all in this matter, and Yi-Bai would not go against the whole world for him. As a friend, I wish you good luck. But I believe it will not be so bad in the future. After all, it is bad enough now. Yi-Bai smiled and said, comforting Banner. Although he didn't intend to get involved in this matter, Yi-Bai didn't want to give up being a friend of Banner. Just like Tony Stark, being friends with good people was a pleasure in itself. Thank you, I feel much better now. You are right, nothing is worse than it is now. I'm going to leave. I have already troubled you these days. Banner stood up, bowed to Yi-Bai, and said. He also knew that if he continued to stay with Yi-Bai, it would only bring more trouble to Yi-Bai. Yi-Bai nodded slightly, without any intention of requesting him to stay. Banner's departure was good for both parties. But Yi-Bai's expression moved, and he frowned. In Yi-Bai's perception, a large group of soldiers had already surrounded the villa. The military had arrived. After realizing this, Yi-Bai glanced at Banner helplessly, knowing that trouble was unavoidable. Banner also seemed to realize something, and there was a lot of fear on his face. It seemed that these escapes had left Banner with a great psychological shadow. At this moment, the doorbell of Yi-Bai's villa rang. Yi-Bai stood up, gave Banner a calm look, and then walked towards the door. The one who came first was a middle-aged man with sharp eyes. If Yi-Bai didn't guess wrong, he should be Banner's old father-in-law, General Ross, the military lieutenant general. He was also the future Red Giant, the enemy of Hulk. Where is that person? General Rose spoke with a hint of arrogance, causing Yi-Bai to frown. I don't understand what you were talking about. And this is my private land. Your military has no right to enter here. Yi-Bai protested with a cold face. This was also the tradition of the United States. Even if the police entered the house to search, there must be a search warrant. Otherwise, the owner of the house had the right to even kill the police to protect his own safety. It sounded very magical and unrealistic, but this was the national policy of America, a breath of freedom. When General Ross and Yi-Bai were in a stalemate, Dr. Banner took the initiative to walk out by himself. Episode 23, Super Soldier 2.0. The sudden appearance of Dr. Banner eased the originally tense situation. General Ross no longer looked at Yi-Bai with arrogant eyes, and Yi-Bai's killing intent was slowly dissipating. Yi, I'm glad you helped me, but I don't want to escape from this matter anymore. You are right, nothing is worse than it is now. Banner made Yi-Bai's brow frown with an utterly enlightened posture. Obviously, Banner wanted to drive and didn't want to run anymore. I couldn't run away anyway, so I might as well accept my fate. And if Banner didn't show up just now, Yi-Bai would definitely be in trouble, and this was one of the reasons why Banner made the decision. Looking at Banner, Yi-Bai finally did not choose to intervene. It didn't matter. All this was what Banner would experience, anyway. As for him, he didn't want to ruin his peaceful life because of Banner's affairs. General Ross no longer fought against Yi-Bai. Instead, he turned his head and ordered his subordinates to capture Dr. Banner. Finally, after another glance at Yi-Bai, he turned around and led everyone out of the villa. Yi-Bai was also a trouble for General Ross. After all, Yi-Bai was not an ordinary person, but a super rich man. He also had a huge social influence. To act against such a person, even if General Ross was very powerful in the military, he must seriously consider the consequences. After all, America was a capitalist society, and the rich were the uncles. After these military men left with Dr. Banner, Yi-Bai shook his head and returned to the room. Yi-Bai was sure that he didn't plan to intervene in this matter, and there was no need to intervene. He couldn't kill everyone just because he had a good relationship with Dr. Banner. That was not helping Dr. Banner. It was harming him. Is it all right? Hela, who also had a good rest at this time, walked out of the room and asked Yi-Bai. It's okay, this matter has nothing to do with us. Yi-Bai simply replied and completely forgot about Dr. Banner's matter. With this idle time, it was better to cook something delicious and give my wife some nourishment. Yi-Bai did plan to treat Hela well. After all, she really worked hard for these 3 days. Since Dr. Banner was taken away by the military, the lives of Yi-Bai and Hela calmed down. I had to say that the climate of the City of Angels was indeed better than that of New York City, and it was more suitable for enjoying life. Yi-Bai and Hela had completely forgotten everything these days, and enjoyed themselves with peace of mind. Occasionally organized barbecue parties with some big stars, or went fishing in the sea on a yacht. By the way, he also took time to watch Lakers' home game and watched Corvo play a whole game of basketball. After all, the first basketball king in history was an old player. As for Hela, she felt a little uncomfortable with this kind of life. It was too easy. But she did not refuse, instead she tried to blend in. However, when she was in front of outsiders, Hela kept a cold face. This was not bad. It showed that Hela had already begun to change for Yi-Bai. There was a saying, once you like someone, you want the other person to change for you. If you loved someone, you couldn't change yourself for the other person. Hela was like this. For Yi-Bai, she was slowly changing herself. Although this change was slow, Hela didn't even realize it. But after a certain amount of time, when Hela looked back, her changes might shock her. As for whether this change was a good thing or a bad thing, just look at the tenderness in Hela's eyes. While Yi-Bai was enjoying life, Dr. Banner suffered several days of inhuman torture. First, he was injected with a serum inhibitor to prevent the monster in Dr. Banner from rushing out. Followed by various blood draws, researches, and various data checks. Dr. Banner in the past few days couldn't even be called a human being. He was but a little white mouse on the experimental platform. The so-called human rights and freedom were like a joke for the research of the military. Bruce Banner deeply realized the malice of this world and was brutally beaten by the Capitol. So that Banner would often fantasize that if he was not so naive, he would not be in his current situation. The military really was untrustworthy. And in the research room of this secret base, a very risky experiment was going on. Colonel Blonsky, are you sure you want to accept this experiment? Know that this experiment is extremely risky. We have never tested it on humans before. A scientific researcher wearing a white coat once again asked the soldier tied to the test bed. Hurry up and start this damn experiment. I can't wait anymore. I believe I will succeed, and I will gain this power. Colonel Blonsky said grimly and constantly urged the researchers to quickly inject the Hulk serum into his body. Yes, the essence of this experiment was that the military hoped to use Hulk serum to recreate a Hulk. If it succeeded, the military would master the technology of mass production of Hulk. When that happened, the Earth would not be able to stop America. Their goal was the stars and the sea. I see. The experiment will begin soon. The researcher ordered the other assistants, and soon the experiment began. While outside the laboratory, General Ross looked through the window at what was happening inside. In his eyes, the desire for success and terrible ambition flashed. The earliest origin of this experiment was the Super Soldier Project during World War II. Scientists used super soldier serum to create the United States' first superhero, Captain America. Then the research on super soldiers was forced to stop. General Ross restarted this project not long ago, and intended to create a super soldier that was stronger than Captain America. And Dr. Banner was the main person in charge of this project. The experiment was indeed successful, but it was not the kind of success that General Ross and Dr. Banner had envisioned. They did get a super soldier who was stronger than Captain America, but this super soldier was uncontrollable. Hulk, a foolish man with only smashing and anger in his head. This was the product of the experiment of General Ross and Dr. Banner. Now General Ross hoped to use the serum made from Hulk's blood to recreate a controllable Hulk. General, the experiment will begin soon. I suggest you avoid it immediately. After all, no one knows whether what we created this time is a qualified fighter or another Hulk. At the sight of General Ross, his adjutant stepped forward and said after seeing that the experiment had started. His meaning was obvious. I hope that General Ross would go to a safe place first. General Ross nodded. He did not object to what his adjutant said. As the adjutant said, no one knew whether an angel or a demon would be born after the experiment. He had a high position and a very expensive life, so naturally he would never stay in such a dangerous place. Let the adjutant take charge of the situation here, while he would sit behind the team and wait for the results of the experiment. Episode 24, The Birth of Abomination. General Ross, who was being transferred, didn't know that this experiment he led by one hand would create another monster. A monster named Abomination. Not long after, General Ross received a call back from his adjutant. General Ross didn't think much about it, and he connected directly. William, how is the situation? General Ross asked his adjutant. General, the experiment was very successful. We created a super soldier no less than Hulk. The only problem is that this super soldier looks a bit out of control. The adjutant standing outside the laboratory looked at the terrifying monster in the laboratory through the window and said with some worry. I believe in Colonel Blonsky. He is the best soldier. His will is stronger than steel. He won't let us down, we are destined to succeed. General Ross said confidently, not worrying about being slapped in the face at all. Colonel Blonsky was Ross's old subordinate, and he followed General Ross very early. Starting from the lowest rank of soldiers, Colonel Blonsky was pulled up by General Ross with one hand. General Ross was very confident about Blonsky's strong will. After hearing General Ross' answer, the adjutant felt calm. Just as he was about to hang up, a terrible scene happened in the laboratory. The monster that Colonel Blonsky turned into broke away from the control of the operating table and then smashed the head of the nearest scientific researcher. The bloody scene stunned everyone. They stared blankly at the hideous monster in their sight. This is the power I seek. The ultimate power beyond the humans. Blonsky, no, he should now be called Abomination. Abomination felt the surging power in his body and said, a little drunk. His will was indeed unwavering, as General Ross said. But what General Ross did not know was that will was not for glory, but for absolute power. After becoming an abomination, Blonsky's first thought was not to be loyal to General Ross, but to defeat Hulk to prove his strength. As for the surrounding researchers, he had a cold sneer at the corner of his mouth. Naturally, he would naturally not let these researchers go. Otherwise, just as they could create him, they could also create another monster. This powerful force. It was better for him alone to be unique. The world didn't need so many strong people. It was enough to have him. These were the thoughts of Abomination at the moment. He had already been affected by the Hulk serum. What followed was a bloody massacre. Under the power of Abomination, all scientific researchers in the laboratory were killed, leaving no one alive. Then, looking abhorrently through the glass of the laboratory, his eyes met with the adjutant of General Ross. What happened to you? Why don't you talk? General Ross' voice came from the phone, but the adjutant was speechless. The monster named Abomination had already come to him. The tall and hideous body made the adjutant lose all courage, leaving only the trembling legs, and his mind was blank. With a pop, the adjutant was pinched to death by hatred, without mercy. Then he leaned in disgust and looked at the phone that fell to the ground, and recognized the name of General Ross. General, your adjutant will not answer you again. I have sent him to the embrace of God. Abomination said with a hideous smile. General Ross fell silent after hearing what was said. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, General Ross probably guessed what happened. He was angry at the same time with a sense of fortune. Fortunately, I left in time, otherwise the consequences would be unthinkable. Are you, Colonel Blonsky? General Ross asked about Abomination through his cell phone. Abomination grinned, General, there is no Blonsky in this world. From now on, there will only be Abomination. After finishing speaking, he stepping on the broken cell phone and walked in the direction of the exit. Gunshots accompanied by fire, screams accompanied by crying. This was the fate of the secret military base. On a busy street in Los Angeles, Yibai was hanging out, holding Hela's hand. It was boring to stay in the house for a long time every day, and it was actually nice to walk outside occasionally. Hela did not refuse either. Anyway, as long as she was with Yibai, she would not refuse. The two were just like the lovers on the road, holding hands, close together. They looked at the various shops and pedestrians around them, and at the same time whispered little secrets between the two. This was the daily routine of Yibai and Hela. Show affection publicly, sprinkle dog food, and enjoy life. Suddenly, a cry came from the front of the street, accompanied by a violent explosion. Yibai looked there suspiciously and found that many pedestrians began to flee for their lives, regardless of their image. What happened over there? Hela asked Yibai, with a little doubt in her eyes. Yibai also shook his head. Although he had super hearing, he didn't use it all the time and made himself tired. So Yibai didn't know what happened at the end of the street. Could it be the characteristic of the United States, the $0 purchase had begun? The dream of a shootout of 300 million people, a battle royale with a huge map, a happy shootout in the free country? Thinking of those American jokes, Yibai almost laughed. But Yibai didn't plan to join in the fun. He turned around, took Hela, and planned to leave. He was not a superhero, so he couldn't be a bird. And this was not his homeland. Why would he care about the life and death of those free citizens? What Yibai didn't know was that at this moment the entire America was paying attention to the City of Angels. There were even many news media that sent helicopters to take aerial photos of the unrest in the City of Angels. In the video, a hideous and ugly monster was wreaking havoc in the city. It was the Abomination that had just escaped from the military base. In front of Abomination, the passing vehicles were no different from larger toys, so they were thrown away. As for the people in the car, if you were lucky, you could fall into a corpse. But, if you were unlucky, you would become a liquid and solid intermediate, in the form of sauce. Hulk, get out for me! Abomination yelled aloud. He now desperately hoped to fight Hulk to prove that he was the most powerful existence. It was just a pity that instead of waiting for Hulk, his shouting called the military. General Ross completely was played off. Just like the Hulk before, he created another monster that he couldn't control. The lesson that mankind could learn from history was that mankind would never learn any lessons. History did not happen repeatedly, but it often rhymed. This was the situation now. General Ross had made the same mistake again. Destroy him, before the loss becomes unbearable. General Ross ordered the army. If the loss caused by Abomination could not be reduced to a minimum, then his future was at an end, and he would even have to go to be court-martialed if the situation became worse. Episode 25, Abomination and Hulk. The military of America was definitely one of the most elite military on Earth. Whether it was quality or quantity of weapons, they were all first class on Earth. If this disturbance was a terrorist organization, then the military would take the initiative and it could definitely be suppressed easily. It was a pity that this time the military's opponent was a monster that shouldn't exist. Could human conventional weapons deal with Hulk? Obviously it couldn't be done. Similarly, human conventional weapons could not deal with Abomination. Those state-of-the-art weapons fell on Abomination, and even his skin wasn't broken. Even if it was a big killer-level missile, it made Abomination feel painful at most, that's all. Instead, many innocent civilians were affected by military attacks and died under weapons made by humans. For a time, the whole City of Angels was in a mess, and countless people cried and fled in panic. Yibai and Hela were already in the car at this time, leaving the area where the Abomination was far away. Seeing that disgusting image in the mobile video, Yibai had an urge to laugh. The military of these Americans was, really. Should it be said that it was the Marvel world? An ordinary person would become a disaster if he mutated. Living in such a world, the fate of ordinary people could be imagined easily. Not to mention the Chitauri army invasion that would occur later. The casualties caused by Abomination alone were as high as tens of thousands. The danger of the Marvel world was evident. Maybe I should invest in a construction company. Yibai suddenly thought. From now on, it would be the era of superheroes, and damage similar to the Abomination incident would happen from time to time. If you set up a construction company, you would definitely have no problem getting business in the future. Of course, it was still just an idea. Yibai planned to wait until he returned to New York City to consider forming a company. As for stopping Abomination from destroying the city and becoming a hero respected by the people. Sorry, Yibai was really not interested. Even if he had this ability, he wouldn't do it. He was not a saint, but a selfish traverser. He did not harm the lives of innocent people, and had done what he could. As for no matter how much whoever loved to go could go. Ethical kidnapping? Haha. Hela was even more stable and even studied the Abomination in the video with great interest. She herself was called the Goddess of Death, the most famous battlefield butcher in the 9 realms. Did you expect Hela to become a hero to save the world? You might as well expect Satan to come out of hell and correct evil. This could be considered to a certain extent. It was not a family, so why would I make efforts for it? Different from the calmness of Yibai and his wife, General Ross had almost become crazy. You must know that Abomination was a monster that he created. All the damage caused by Abomination would be counted on his head in the end. If he didn't get rid of Abomination quickly, he would never end well, and none of his political opponents would let him go. If Abomination was not in the City of Angels, but in the wild, he even had a faint idea of using mushroom bombs. Just then, his daughter, Elizabeth Ross, walked over with Banner. Elizabeth Ross was the ex-girlfriend of Dr. Banner. Why did you bring him here? Didn't I lock him up? Seeing Banner following behind his daughter, General Ross couldn't help it. As an old father, he was instinctively hostile to all men close to his daughter, and Dr. Banner was no exception. Not to mention Dr. Banner was Hulk, and it's not like he was not being treated by Ross. Father, now is not the time to care about this. We have to find a way to solve the Abomination, don't we? Elizabeth Ross said to her father, General Ross, that he should not pursue her release of Banner. As for Dr. Banner, he voluntarily asked to come over. Dr. Banner was different from Yibai. He was the kind of person who possessed the qualities of being a hero. He could not tolerate the constant destruction of the city by Abomination, because the birth of Abomination was also related to him to some extent. And Dr. Banner knew that it was simply not realistic to rely solely on the military to deal with Abomination. Only by letting Hulk come out could there be the possibility of a battle with Abomination. Let me go, I can deal with that monster. Bruce Banner didn't delay, but directly explained his intentions. He was going to summon Hulk out and let Hulk deal with Abomination. Otherwise, the City of Angels might be destroyed. No, the Hulk in your body has been suppressed, and it won't come out in a short time. You will die if you go. So I can't let you go. Ross rejected Banner's proposal without even thinking about it. He couldn't bear the risk of losing Hulk anymore. Abomination was no more, but Hulk had to be held up firmly in his hands. This was related to his future. Just when the two of them were in a stalemate, General Ross's cell phone rang. After he turned on the cell phone, his face quickly turned blue. This call was made by a high-level military officer in order to accuse him of this mistake. In addition, he was also ordered to immediately resolve this abomination. America could not accept the destruction of the City of Angels. The City of Angels and New York City were the two largest super cities in America, and one was more important than the other. Regardless of which one was lost, it was a serious injury to America. This kind of thing was naturally not something that America would like to see. After feeling the pressure from the senior management, General Ross also became silent. The situation was urgent now, and he could no longer hesitate anymore. He must respond immediately. Thinking of this, General Ross looked at Dr. Banner. Wish you all the best. General Ross agreed to Dr. Banner's request, and as expected, monsters should be used to fight against monsters. As for the other things, it was not too late to talk about it after the abomination was resolved. After obtaining the consent of General Ross, Dr. Banner quickly boarded a military helicopter and started flying towards the location of the abomination. As for General Ross and his girlfriend Elizabeth, they did not follow. Which big man would be willing to put himself in such a dangerous situation? Hulk, I will trust you this time. Dr. Banner sat in the helicopter and said to Hulk inwardly. There was only one way to prevent Abomination from continuing to destroy, and that was to let Hulk deal with Abomination. As for whether Hulk was an opponent of Abomination, Dr. Banner actually didn't have much confidence in his heart. Let's take one step at a time. What else could he do? Soon, Dr. Banner came to the sky above the City of Angels and saw the abomination that was wreaking havoc in the city. This hideous monster was ruining everything that could be seen unscrupulously, and the city had almost turned into ruins. Dr. Banner knew that he had to go. So without hesitation, he jumped directly from the helicopter and landed towards the loathing place below. Episode 26, Thor beats up Abomination. After Yibai and Hela returned to the villa, they did not choose to take a break for the first time, but turned on the TV to watch the news. Yibai was not used to this in the past, but today he made an exception. Sure enough, what was reported in the news was exactly about Abomination. The interesting thing was that now Abomination was no longer just destroying the city. He was fighting with a green giant. Undoubtedly, this giant was Hulk. Nice warrior. Hela thought in her heart. Whether it was Abomination or Hulk, in Hela's eyes, both of them were only potential warrior. If they could be put on the battlefield, they would definitely become a meat grinder. Of course, Hela just thought about these things in her heart. She was not ready to tell Yibai that she was actually a war madman. Yibai was also watching the battle between Hulk and Abomination. He was watching the fist-to-fight fight between the two super monsters. However, it was obvious that Hulk was completely downwind at this moment, and was hit on the head by Abomination. It was not that Hulk was not better than Abomination, but before that, Hulk had been injected with inhibitors. Otherwise, the power of Abomination was still much worse than Hulk. Not to mention that Hulk could be even stronger by becoming more angry. There were also those special modes of Hulk, which were not at the same level as Abomination. While watching the news, Yibai was also thinking about another thing. Let's go back to New York City in a few days. The City of Angels had been so damaged that it might be rebuilt for a long time in the future. Yibai said to Hela suddenly, planning to end this vacation in advance. Hela nodded without objection. Anyway, as long as Yibai was with her, she would go wherever he goes. And in the City of Angels, on the battlefield of Hulk and Abomination, two huge monsters were fighting in the most primitive way, rough and barbaric, but they were particularly shocking. But as the fight continued, Hulk had fallen into a comprehensive disadvantage. He also suffered a lot of injuries, and it was obvious that there were signs of defeat. This time, could the Hulk defeat the Abomination like the original plot? No one could say. Why, is that all? Aren't you crazy? Why don't you fight now? Don't you think I am a bug? Abomination yelled while hitting Hulk and arrogantly taunting Hulk. He had been waiting for this day for too long, so he was very happy. This was power, fascinating and addictive. Hulk also roared again and again, but he was incompetent and furious, and he never made an effective counterattack. He was repeatedly hit by Abomination, and the defeat became more and more obvious. Just when Hulk accidentally exposed his flaws and was about to let Abomination seize the opportunity to expand his advantage, a thunder suddenly sounded. Then, against the backdrop of thunder, a hunk fell from the sky. Before Abomination could react to him, he was hit by a hammer from the heavens, and his whole body flew out. When the light from thunder faded, Thor, the god of thunder, wearing battle armor and a red cloak, appeared on the battlefield. It turned out that when Abomination was constantly destroying the city of angels, the high level of mankind approached Thor. They hoped that the god of thunder from the myth could help them. Considering the value of human beings to Thor, Thor agreed. Thor himself was a militant, after all. He would definitely not object to being able to fight. The sudden appearance of Thor completely reversed the situation on the battlefield, and the Abomination that had already secured the victory fell into a bitter battle instead. Thor and Hulk, each of them was not inferior to him in strength, and one was even stronger. 1-to-1 was a bit difficult, let alone 1 versus 2. Thor was the god of war in Asgard, fighting for hundreds of years, and had rich battle experience. In the face of such an opponent, it would be wrong to say that he didn't hate this. While in the villa, Yi-Bai and Hela were also a little surprised when they saw the sudden arrival of Thor. Was this the butterfly effect? The plot was completely different from the original. Yi-Bai was a little better. He just wondered if his appearance had disturbed the original plot. Hela was different. A pair of beautiful eyes was staring at the hammer in Thor's hand. Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. What few people did not know was that Mjolnir was originally Hela's weapon, which was specially awarded to Hela by Odin. It was only after Hela and Odin fell out that the hammer was taken back by Odin, and now it fell into Thor's hands. This also explained the identity of Thor, a man from Asgard. Thinking of this, Hela's heart felt irritated. It was really a bad news to see the Asgardians on Earth. This made Hela understand that Asgard had noticed this small place in the atrium. And she would be discovered by the Asgardians sooner or later. Then maybe it would be a war. In the heart of Hela at this moment, a sense of urgency suddenly emerged, and she felt that there was not much time left for herself. Yi-Bai and Hela thought about their own thoughts, but they were also silently paying attention to the situation of the battle. After Thor joined the battlefield, the end of Abomination was already doomed. Under the constant blows of Thor's hammer, the injuries on the body of Abomination became more and more serious. Soon after being hit by Thor on the forehead, Abomination couldn't hold on completely, and he fainted. At this point, the disaster that spread to the City of Angels was basically over. After that was the finishing touch, which had nothing to do with Thor. After smiling at his teammate Hulk, who was fighting side by side with him just now, Thor wielded his hammer and disappeared. Only the City of Angels was left in ruins after the war, and countless people who laid in the ruins constantly wailing. This was a real world, so it seemed extra cruel. Behind the era of superheroes was the blood and tears of countless ordinary people. General Ross breathed a sigh of relief after learning that Abomination was suppressed. But his heart was also a little complicated, a little unwilling. Abomination, the monster he carefully created, was smashed by a man with a hammer. Didn't this mean that his creation and hard work were worthless? But the strength that Thor showed with his appearance was good news for General Ross. Because of this, you didn't have to worry about being punished by the top federal officials. The greater the strength the Asgardians showed, the more they would arouse humanity's vigilance. Although the relationship between Asgard and humans was good for the time being, who knew what would happen in the future? It was better to prepare early. Humans must ensure that when facing Asgard, they had the power to fight. In this case, General Ross' plan seemed very good. Although there were many drawbacks, the power of Abomination was actually there. If they could mass-produce super fighters like Abomination, humans would have a lot of confidence even in the face of Asgard. Episode 27, The Macho Kneeling. The impact of Abomination was actually just beginning. On the second day after the incident ended, large-scale protest marches broke out in America. The people of the United States angrily accused the military and demanded an explanation for the Abomination. Such a terrible monster must have a statement. But all this had nothing to do with Yi-Bai. They had left the City of Angels and returned to the Seaside Manor in New York City. As for the Abomination, Yi-Bai didn't take it seriously. Anyway, the people of America would get used to it sooner or later. And not long after Yi-Bai returned to the manor, Laser Eye, who had been waiting for several days, came to the door. In addition to Laser Eyes, there was another person who was more anxious than him, and that was Wolverine. God knew how miserable Wolverine had been these past few days. When he woke up almost every morning, he was pulled to the bedside of Professor X, and then he was hollowed out under the ability of Rogue's mutation. The vitality was used to extend the life of Professor X, so as to prevent Professor X from dying suddenly. Professor X's life was saved, but Wolverine was miserable. Every day, he felt sluggish, and he felt like he'd been hollowed out. So after learning that Yi-Bai had returned to his seaside manor, he couldn't wait to follow Laser Eye to the door of the manor. After pressing the doorbell, he and Laser Eye stood obediently at the door, waiting for Yi-Bai to come out. This time Wolverine had decided. If Yi-Bai didn't agree to let Professor X go, he would kneel down to Yi-Bai with a puff, just like Laser Eye. Where Yi-Bai went, he knelt down there. Soon, without letting Laser Eye and Wolverine wait too long, Yi-Bai opened the door of the manor. Looking at the two hunks who came to see him, Yi-Bai was a little puzzled. How did these two find themselves here? Could it be that they were here to make trouble? But very quickly, the movement of the Laser Eye shocked Yi-Bai. He saw that the Laser Eye directly knelt with a pop in front of Yi-Bai. This attitude, this speed, this was worthy of being called professional. What do you mean? Yi-Bai was completely confused. He thought he was here to make trouble for himself. But you knelt down in front of me, if I didn't agree with you. People who didn't know would think you are my son. Yi-Bai, right? You'd better let go of the professor, or I'll never end with you. Whenever you go, I will kneel there. Laser Eye still used the most horizontal tone, speaking the most ruthless words. Such a shameless posture made Yi-Bai a little bit dumbfounded. This was the first time he heard such a threat. Wolverine looked at Yi-Bai's unmoved appearance, and his heart began to hesitate. Did he had to kneel down too? It was against the dignity of a macho. So Wolverine decided to wait and see the situation first. Professor X made a mistake on his own account, and he deserves it if he died. If you want to avenge him, just come to me. It's funny, Yi-Bai was not so easy to be threatened. Based on what Professor X had done before, Yi-Bai couldn't kill him too much. Even in Yi-Bai's eyes, this was already a very benevolent approach. Otherwise, Yi-Bai could use black magic to control Professor X's soul. That would be really cruel. You are right. This matter is indeed the professor's fault. But the professor is kind to me. I just can't watch him die in front of me, so I will kneel for you today. I will just kneel and won't leave. Laser Eyes also knew that they were responsible for this matter. Hence, they didn't plan to retaliate against Yi-Bai. The X-Men all had their own ethics and would not do such things. As for Professor X, although there he indeed made a mistake, he really should not die. If the professor died, those mutant children would die as well. The best result was to be arrested and undergo various experiments all day long. Just because of this, it was impossible for the Laser Eye to let the professor die. After hearing Laser Eye's words, Yi-Bai was really speechless. The key was that people's attitude was still very upright, and they would kneel down for you when they came up. You really couldn't do anything to them. This kind of feeling was like meeting a gangster. People were messing around, and it was very difficult for you to handle it. Of course, this was also because Yi-Bai had his own rules in his heart, and he was not willing to kill innocent people indiscriminately. If you changed to another person, such as Hela, maybe she would have already killed without saying a word. After thinking about it, Yi-Bai also felt that it would be better to just let it go. Anyway, Professor X had also learned a lesson. Although he would not die, he was also badly injured, and his body was basically useless. And he estimated that after this incident, Professor X would be much more honest. It was unlikely that he would trouble Yi-Bai in the future. If he looked for him again, then I'm sorry. It would be useless even if Laser Eye knelt down, Yi-Bai would definitely break his neck. After weighing inwardly, Yi-Bai made a decision. It's okay to let him go, but you must remember that there can be no such thing a second time. If he doesn't know but troubles me anyway, not only will he die. You guys don't even need to think about running away. Although he decided to let Professor X go, he still had to give him the beating. Otherwise, if there was nothing to do, just come to trouble yourself. Wouldn't that be tiring? After listening to Yi-Bai's words, Laser Eye nodded quickly, for fear that Yi-Bai would regret it if he was slow. As for the conditions Yi-Bai said, it must be unconditional execution. There was no need to say more about Yi-Bai, it was impossible for a mutant to come to Yi-Bai to make trouble. Such a terrible existence, whoever was tired of his life, would come to find him. After seeing Laser Eye's consent, Yibai did not hesitate, and directly recovered the curse on Professor X. Of course, Yibai still defended himself from the professor. When he recovered the curse, he left a little black magic on Professor X. As long as Professor X intended to deal with Yibai in the future, the little black magic left behind would be triggered, directly killing Professor X. It depended on whether Professor X himself understood things. After solving the matter, Laser Eye took Wolverine and left here. Their purpose had been achieved, and there was no point in staying. He couldn't always kneel in front of Yibai, because their mutants also wanted face. After the two mutants left, Yibai closed the door again and returned to the house. It was still early, and he planned to find someone for himself. A construction company was good. There would be more and more superheroes in the future, so there was no need to worry about not having business. Thinking of this, Yibai began to use his contacts to find a helper to start the company. This construction company belonged to Yibai's play-ticket nature. Even if it was formed, he was also a hands-off shopkeeper. Yibai was only responsible for paying the money, and the specific operation and work were left to professional personnel to take care of. Otherwise, if it took Yibai a lot of time, wouldn't it be the end? Yibai was not short of money, nor was he particularly eager to make money. He was just looking for something to do, so as not to be too bored. This was also related to Yibai's situation. Who made him get married early? If it weren't for Hela, Yibai would be as busy as Tony at various parties. But now that he had Hela, he had to take care of her. This was a man's responsibility. Episode 28, Devil Girl. After taking Hela around for a while, Yibai lost the thought of going outside. He intended to stay at home with Hela for a few days with peace of mind. However, no matter how many times Yibai didn't want to cause trouble, the trouble would always come to him. Aunt Lu, why are you here? Yibai, who was lying by the pool basking in the sun, asked the middle-aged Chinese woman suspiciously. This Aunt Lu was a nanny hired by Yibai, who cooked Sichuan cuisine well. Sometimes when Yibai was too lazy to cook by himself, or if he had something to do and went out, he would let Aunt Lu come over to cook. But it was the first time for her to come directly to the door without saying hello. Mr. Yi, I have something to trouble you. Aunt Lu's face was embarrassed, as if she had some difficulties. She seemed hesitant to speak. Seeing Aunt Lu's attitude, Yibai also became a little serious. He has a good relationship with Aunt Lu. If Aunt Lu really encountered any difficulties, he was not unable to help. If you have something to say it slowly, I will try to help you depending on the situation. Yibai said gently, but he didn't say too much. If it was a matter of no effort or little effort, Yibai could help. But if things were troublesome, Yibai needed to think about it. Aunt Lu didn't care about this. After hearing Yibai's comfort, her emotions became more stable. Then Aunt Lu said things slowly. It was not Aunt Lu who had an accident, but Aunt Lu's son. He heard Aunt Lu say that her son got into trouble recently and owed a lot of money, so she couldn't pay it back. Nowadays, he was detained by creditors, and they would him if they didn't pay the money. Aunt Lu was just an ordinary person. When did she have so much money? In desperation, Aunt Lu found Yibai, hoping to ask Yibai for help, to see if he could get his son out first. Yibai had only heard of such a bad thing, but he did not expect it to happen. But Yibai didn't fully believe it, and even started to feel a little skeptical in his heart. Aunt Lu truly had a son, but Aunt Liu's son was quite honest, and Yibai had also seen him. Would a person like him owe others a lot of money? Moreover, what Aunt Lu meant was that she wanted Yibai to go out with her, which was also very unusual. Normally, shouldn't it be to borrow money from Yibai? Could it be that they came for me? Yibai thought calmly. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that it was possible. Hadn't he been targeted by Magneto recently? And among Magneto's subordinates, if Yibai remembered correctly, there should be a mutant called Mystique. Thinking of this, Yibai's eyes became cold, and he had some confidence in the identity of this Aunt Lu in his heart. Okay, then I'll accompany you on a walk. We'll get people back first. Yibai smiled and said to the Aunt Lu in front of him. He then greeted Hela and drove away Aunt Lu from the manor. Since they were deliberately trying to lead Yibai away, it was good for Yibai to give them face. Just go and see what tricks these mutants were going to play. By the way, solving these troubles at once would save him from more troubles in the future. Watching Yibai drive away Aunt Lu in the car, Hela's eyes gradually became cold. Yibai had been stuck with her these days, and she had no time to do other things. With time today, Hela would naturally not waste it. As for the goal, Hela had actually planned it in her heart. Shield, mutants. Hela thought, coldly. S.H.I.E.L.D., and mutants, in Hela's eyes, were both troublesome and needed to be resolved. S.H.I.E.L.D. Bureau would not need to be mentioned. Before that black-hearted braised egg tried instigating the feelings between their husband and wife. Hence, this Queen Hela had always remembered it. As for the mutants, they dared to kidnap Yi-Bai, she would destroy them quickly. Silently, Hela disappeared from the manor. S.H.I.E.L.D. building. Nick Fury's office. Marinated Egg had been very tangled recently, and felt helpless looking at the information in front of him. The information was all the information about Hela that could be found. And this information also made Nick Fury's guess firm. That was Yi-Bai's wife. Hela, who might be problematic in his opinion, was basically from Asgard. She was what Thor said some time ago, that sister. Nick Fury's entanglement also originated from this. Knowing that Hela was a real goddess. Should he come in contact with her? Or still ignore her? If he wished to contact her, there was no suitable person, and there was no suitable opportunity. Hela was too troublesome. If he didn't contact and left such a great goddess alone, Nick Fury's heart was not so big yet. Or, first start with Yi-Bai, and then contact Hela? Nick Fury thought in his heart that this was the best way he could think of. As for the relationship between Yi-Bai and Hela, Nick Fury was completely out of ideas. People were talented and beautiful. Did he need to be a monster to oppose them? And he was also afraid. If Hela learned about him provoking the relationship between Yi-Bai and her, his fate would definitely be very miserable. Thor had shown the strength of Asgard, and him calling himself a god was not just an empty boast. As Thor's sister, Hela would definitely not be worse than Thor if she wanted to fight. To offend such a goddess, even Nick Fury felt a lot of pressure. Nick Fury, who was sad in his heart, sighed sadly. Then he looked up and saw Hela standing in front of him. The air suddenly fell silent, and Nick Fury even heard his own heartbeat. At this moment, Nick Fury even had the urge to slap himself in his heart. What a crow's mouth. I was afraid of what would come. I just wondered whether Hela would retaliate against him, but in the blink of an eye, people came to him. Hela also coldly looked at the black marinated egg in front of her, her heart full of killing intent. This guy provoked the feelings between her and Yi-Bai some time ago. This hatred must be reported. Hello, Ms. Hela. It's nice to meet you. Nick Fury said bluntly. Nick Fury naturally felt Hela's killing intent, and his heart was flustered. If it weren't for his skin tone to be too dark, his face would have turned white with fear right now. Are you investigating me? Hela didn't care about Nick Fury's reaction, but looked at the information on the table. Hela was very familiar with the person on the information, as that was herself. This is where the responsibility lies, and I can't help it. Nick Fury gave a smile that was uglier than crying and explained a far-fetched reason. Don't worry. We will never harass Mr. Yi-Bai and you again. Nick Fury knew exactly why Hela was here. Obviously, Hela knew what he said to Yi-Bai. At the same time, Nick Fury's brain was also spinning rapidly. He was now thinking about what to do to save his life. Episode 29, Hela is in action. Nick Fury didn't know much about Hela, and even Hela's identity was heard from Thor. If Nick Fury knew of Hela's past. If he knew that she had wiped out countless cosmic races. Maybe Nick Fury would not worry about his own life safety, but worry about whether human beings could still exist. Do you think I will forget about it if you admit your wrongdoing? Hela smiled contemptuously, never letting Nick Fury's plan succeed. Did this black-hearted braised egg knew that when he provoked Yi-Bai, Hela was almost scared to death. If Yi-Bai was really moved by Nick Fury and doubted her feelings, Hela would have a murderous heart. Perhaps in a rage, she would directly exterminate human beings. Hela was not unable to do this kind of thing. So the human beings on Earth were really lucky. Yi-Bai's feelings for Hela were still very strong. As long as Yi-Bai was a little bit fickle, human beings were basically gone. So Yi-Bai saved all mankind and should be the greatest unsung hero. Although not as prestigious as other superheroes, Yi-Bai's contribution to mankind was not lower than those superheroes. Nick Fury didn't know that he almost became the chief culprit of the extinction of all mankind. But Nick Fury knew one thing, that if he failed to give a statement that satisfied Hela today, he may be cold. Looking at Nick Fury, who was still trying to find excuses, Hela shook her head. The sword of the night sky had emerged in his hand, and Nick Fury was about to be killed. You are from Asgard. Suddenly, Nick Fury spoke up, successfully delaying Hela's movements and gaining a short life for himself. You know me? Hela did not deny it, nor did she need to deny it. Nick Fury nodded and then said. Have you seen the battle in the City of Angels? The one with the hammer is Thor from Asgard. Nick Fury tried his best not to look at the sword of the night sky in Hela's hand. Otherwise, he was worried that he would not have the courage to continue. What then? Do you think I'm afraid? Hela didn't do anything for the time being and listened to what Nick Fury said. As for Thor, Hela was really disdainful. Thor? God of the hammer. Odin seemed to be really old, and he actually cultivated such an ape person. It seems that your relationship with Asgard is not good. Of course, this is your own business in Asgard. What I want to say is that the Thor from Asgard is looking for you through human power. Nick Fury knew that it was useless to apologize at this time. Apologizing and begging for mercy when you were about to die would not increase your chances of living even a little bit. What could really keep you alive in this situation was your worth. Valuable talents deserved to live, and Nick Fury, as the king of secret agents, deeply understood this truth. Just like before, when facing Yi Bai, Kingpin knew begging for mercy was useless. Showing one's own value was the real guarantee of survival. After listening to Nick Fury's words, Hela briefly fell silent. This was indeed a problem. If Asgard really used humans to find her, she would be found very soon. The network of human society was so developed that there was no difficulty in finding someone at all. Seeing Hela's thoughtful look, Nick Fury knew that his chance to survive had come. So Nick Fury immediately said, "But you don't need to worry. S.H.I.E.L.D. still has a lot of power. I can prevent Asgard from finding you easily. In exchange, can our little conflict in the past be assumed to have never happened? How about it?" Nick Fury said as if he was dead. If Hela didn't agree, he would really have to die. Hela frowned, weighing inwardly. In fact, Hela didn't really care about being found by Asgard. Her injuries had basically recovered, and her strength had returned to the peak. Facing Asgard, Hela was not afraid. And even if Asgard didn't find her, she would fight Asgard sooner or later. It was Yi Bai who really worried Hela. The more you cared, the more you were afraid of loss. Hela was in this kind of psychology now. Hela didn't want to expose his identity before she could confirm whether Yi Bai could accept his past. Although Yi Bai would know the truth sooner or later, Hela hoped that the truth would come from herself. Looking at it this way, Nick Fury's deal was worth a bit. Remember what you said. If you can't do it, I will find you. Then you will never have the opportunity to bargain. After Hela put a harsh word down, she disappeared right in front of Nick Fury. She basically agreed with Nick Fury's statement and exchanged his life for the help of S.H.I.E.L.D. Bureau. Nick Fury would hide her identity and would not let Asgard find her easily. If S.H.I.E.L.D. could not do this, Hela would not give Nick Fury any chance to speak. After confirming that Hela was gone, Nick Fury's tense nerves suddenly relaxed. It wasn't until this time that Nick Fury realized that his back had been wet with cold sweat. The pressure given by Hela was really too great. That was a real goddess whose strength was beyond measure. If she really wanted to kill him, it was probably as easy as crushing an ant. Among the people Nick Fury knew, there was only one Captain Marvel who could fight Hela. It was a pity that Captain Marvel was not on Earth all year round. He didn't know which galaxy she had gone to. After experiencing Hela's strength, Nick Fury deeply understood the truth. What was the use of his power? Without strength, he was still the meat on the chopping board. Perhaps we can consider cooperating with General Ross. Nick Fury thought inwardly. Originally, he did not agree with General Ross's Super Soldier Serum 2.0 plan, but now it seemed that this plan was very necessary. Humans needed to have the confidence to say no when facing such a powerful civilization as Asgard. After solving the S.H.I.E.L.D. issue, Hela did not immediately return to the manor. After finding the place of the Brotherhood of Mutants, she rushed over. The place where the Brotherhood of Mutants hid was an abandoned factory in the suburbs. When Hela came here, there were only more than 20 mutants gathered here. Most of the mutants had already gone out. In the face of these mutants, Hela didn't even bother to speak, and immediately began to kill. She gave Nick Fury a chance to speak, because Nick Fury had not harmed Yi Bai. These mutants from the Brotherhood were different. In the face of these people who dared to scheme against Yi Bai, Hela did not hesitate. She didn't even want to listen to their explanation. There were more than 20 mutants with various mutant abilities. If put elsewhere, this was a force that could not be underestimated. But in front of the great demon Queen Hela, there was no resistance at all. From Hela's hand to the end, within 10 seconds, the mutants were completely destroyed. It was a pity that there were only some small shrimps here. Nobody among them knew where the core members of the true Brotherhood of Mutants had gone. Episode 30, Squeeze the Magneto King. Let's go back to Yi Bai's side. After following Aunt Lu to the designated place, Yi Bai got out of the car with Aunt Lu. This was a relatively remote warehouse located in the slums of New York City. Is he in there? Standing outside the warehouse door, Yibai asked Aunt Lu. Aunt Lu nodded, and motioned Yibai to enter quickly with her eyes. Seeing this scene, Yibai strengthened his opinion about the conspiracy in his heart, and sneered. Without entanglement, he walked in directly. With a clam, Aunt Lu, who followed Yibai, directly locked the door tightly after Yibai entered the warehouse. Then, a group of strange-looking mutants walked out of the corner and looked at Yibai maliciously. The reason why mutants were not accepted by human society had a lot to do with their looks. Almost all of them looked willful and reckless, as if they were a combination of animals and humans. Only a small number of mutants seemed to be indistinguishable from humans. And this kind of mutant was usually more powerful than the Wakwa split jujube asterisk. TL/ed, it's a slang which generally means strange and having different shapes. At the same time, an old man in his 60s, wearing a metal helmet, slowly walked from the back towards Yibai. Yibai immediately knew that this person was Magneto. Mr. Yibai. I have admired your name for a long time. I'm glad to see you in a place like this. Magneto greeted Yibai in a confident manner. With a calm posture, as if everything was under his control. Magnetic King, I've admired you for a long time. Yibai also smiled and greeted Magneto, but the coldness in his eyes became more obvious. This time it was Magneto's turn to be surprised. It's not surprising that Yibai knew his identity. This was normal. He has done so many things over the years, and he didn't know how many headlines have been posted. It was not surprising that Yibai could recognize him. What really surprised Magneto was that Yibai knew his identity, and he was still so calm. Could it be that he had any support? Thinking of this, Magneto glanced at Mystique behind Yibai, as if asking what was going on. Mystique shook her head. Nothing happened along the way, and the plan completely went smoothly. At this time, the Mystique's disguise had been lifted. She no longer had the appearance of a middle-aged Chinese woman, and had returned to her normal form. After seeing the Mystique's reaction, Magneto didn't care anymore. Even if Yibai really had anything to rely on, he wouldn't be afraid. When someone was in his hands, could he still run away? Thinking of this, Magneto looked at Yibai again. He had to admit that Yibai was indeed a bit too calm. He seemed to be turning a blind eye to the malicious eyes of the mutants around him. This gradually gave Magneto a bad premonition in his heart. But Magneto still spoke. We hope that you, Mr. Yibai, can display a humanitarian spirit and support our mutant movement. In addition, we also hope that you will speak up for the mutants and say something for us mutants. Magneto kindly said. If you were an unknowing person, you might think Magneto was a kind old man. But Yibai sneered, what he said was really nice. Wasn't he just asking Yibai to give money and for Yibai to speak for their mutants? To put it bluntly, it was because of Yibai's family property and Yibai's huge social influence. What if I say I won't? Yibai said indifferently, but his patience was getting less and less. If you refuse, then you are the enemy of us mutants. We treat the enemy by different means. I believe Mr. Yibai, you would not want to see them. Magneto first tried to persuade him by talking. But when he saw that Yibai was not going to agree, he immediately threatened him. If Yibai was just an ordinary person, there really was nothing he could do. Either be squeezed out of property and fame and then be ruined. Or either be tortured to death, but also be robbed of property and fame, which was even worse. Unfortunately, Yibai was not an ordinary person. Almost at the moment when Magneto threatened him, Yibai stretched out his hand like lightning, and directly pinched Magneto's neck. Then he mentioned Magneto directly. A long-range mage. Why does he like to come and jump in front of me? Yibai said to Magneto with a sneer. Magneto was not weak, but he had one of the biggest shortcomings. That was, his physique was too poor. Compared with ordinary people, Yibai could easily pinch such an existence to death. If Magneto was a little more cautious and hid in the distance, Yibai might have to spend more hands and feet to make Magneto struggle twice. Unfortunately, this guy jumped too much. Was it because of Gandalf's influence that he became obsessed with melee combat? TL/ed, one stock, Magneto's actor and Gandalf are the same person, a melee mage. Hearing Yibai's talk, Magneto wanted to say something. But at this moment, his neck was caught by Yibai and he couldn't even breathe. He could only grasp Yibai's hand with both hands, trying hard to get rid of Yibai's control. But Yibai's hand was like steel tongs, and he couldn't shake it. The sudden change startled all the mutants that their leader was directly caught by Yibai. And seeing Magneto's face getting flushed, they feared he would be choked to death if Yibai didn't let go of Magneto. At this time, Mystique undoubtedly had the fastest response. She directly drew out a shiny dagger and then thrust it towards Yibai's back. With a sound of clang, the dagger broke, as if it had been stuck on the hardest steel. Yibai turned his head and glanced at the bewildered Mystique, revealing a cruel sneer. Then the hand holding Magneto's neck applied slightly more force and twisted. With a click, Magneto's neck was directly twisted. Magneto's body also hung limply. A generation of heroes, the leader of mutants, Magneto, who had been in the world for decades, just died. Yibai's face remained unchanged, as if he had squeezed an ant to death. He casually threw Magneto's body aside. Killing Magneto didn't have any psychological burden for Yibai. It was this guy who came to look for himself, and when he died, he asked for it. Yibai is not a gentleman, and he had no intention of letting Magneto go to jail for trial. Just pinch it to death. It was that simple. Even if it was Professor X who provoked himself, Yibai could be cruel to kill him, let alone Magneto. As for these mutants, to be honest, Yibai didn't plan to let them go. There was no need to look at how miserable the mutants were in the movie, but they were the one who asked for it. There might be innocents among the mutants, but none of the members of the Brotherhood of Mutants were innocent. These were lunatics who followed Magneto and were extremely hostile to human society. What? Surprised? Don't worry. It will be your turn soon. Looking at the stunned Mystique, Yibai said cruelly, and then suddenly attacked and started killing the surrounding mutants. Yibai had completely integrated the body template of General Zod, who was a powerful general of Krypton. Not to mention the entire universe. At least Yibai had no rivals on Earth. The Supreme Mage Gui might be able to pose a little threat to Yibai. After all, the Kryptonians' magic resistance was low. But in Yibai's eyes, these mutants were all lambs to be slaughtered, and they couldn't even resist.